Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by Tri-County Logging. Experienced in sustainable forestry practices, Tri-County Logging can help you manage your property by keeping your woods healthy and generate income. Serving southern and mid-Michigan for nearly 50 years, TriCountyLogging.com.
Hi everyone, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I'm Jenny Olson-Silik and we've got a great show in store for you this week. Now we've all been a little restricted this summer as far as where we can go and what we can do, so we wanted to show you a couple of fun, unique adventures that you can still take part in this year here in our great state of Michigan. One of my favorite places to go is Stannard Rock. It's a pile of rocks on a shoal up in the middle of Lake Superior where there are some monster lake trout. Jordan Brown and his wife took a trip up there a couple of summers ago. We're going to show you that story, and Jimmy's got another fun adventure in store for us this week too.
Well, that's right, Jenny. We do have another story on this week's show, and just like Stannard Rock, which is a very unique place here in the state of Michigan, maybe you've never been there, another unique spot that maybe you've never actually traveled to before is Beaver Island. It's one of my favorite places here in the state of Michigan. There's some great fishing, and it's really just a cool island to explore. We're going to have that story for you as well, so lots of good stuff on this week's show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's meat processor and Michigan destination since 1988. Offers a variety of homemade smoked meats and Michigan-made products in-store and online. The Country Smokehouse features an outdoor barbecue and bar. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By Angler Quest Pontoons. Angler Quest is a Michigan-based company building boats designed for comfort and fishing functionality. For more information, anglerquestpontoons.com. By Green Mark Equipment. Green Mark Equipment is a John Deere dealership network in southwest Michigan and northern Indiana. Green Mark provides sales and services to farmers, commercial businesses, large property owners, and homeowners. Information about pricing and products available can be found online at greenmarkequipment.com.
Yep, we're out here 48 miles offshore from Marquette at Stannard Rock. We got here right at sunrise, right at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're out here doing a little fun fishing. We got some friends on board. I got my wife on board, and it's just an absolutely beautiful day, 4th of July weekend out here, and it doesn't get much better than this. What I want to do is just kind of reel it in like that.
You'll feel
something
the difference
bites.
though when something...
Yeah, when something bites, you'll feel it, and then when you do, then you just give it a jerk.
Okay.
And keep reeling. Set the hook and keep reeling.
Don't change the pace that I'm reeling? Just...
Nope.
Oh my goodness!
Like
You're right on,
That's kind of like
That's
that.
awesome!
So that's what you want to do. Just like that.
Wow, alright. That fast. There you go.
Stannard Rock is our favorite destination around here, Marquette. It's 48 miles offshore, and it's a nice big reef out there that's about 5 miles long. That's just absolutely packed full of lake trout. So we're going to head out there today and see how many fish we can get going. Really, Stannard Rock Reef is in the middle of the basin of Lake Superior, and it's surrounded by 5 to 7 to even 800 feet of water for 20 or 30 miles in all directions. And what you have is it's a big underwater mountain that comes up in the middle of a big flat expanse. So that attracts a lot of bait fish, and it attracts a lot of plankton and things in the water that concentrate there in that shallower water, which warms up. And that warming up and bringing in a bait fish draws in those Lakers from the deep water. And it's just a perfect environment out in the middle of Lake Superior for those Lakers to grow real big. They have a lot of deep water that they can sit in, They can move up, feed on the bait fish that are up there moving around on the reef, and then they can slide back down into the deep water, and it's a great spot for them to grow real big, real long.
There's two things that really make this fishery special: the number and size of lake trout you can catch, and also the fact that you're able to catch fish with spinning gear so far from shore, and the setup is pretty basic.
Couple different methods of fishing we do out there. One of them is trolling. We don't do a lot of trolling out there, but it is very productive. You have to be very, very careful because of the bottom comes up and down so quick. But what we really like to do out there is we go out there with spinning tackle, with either jigs or casting spoons, and we find those fish that are piled up on the structure, and we're casting and jigging to them with the lighter tackle on spinning gear, and it's a lot of fun. It's something most people don't get to do in the Great Lakes, almost anywhere, especially for fish in that 20 to 30 pound class. It's pretty special place to be able to find those kind of fish on spinning gear. Typically we're going to drift small pieces of structure out there, very, very steep pieces of structure, so we'll get upwind and we'll drop those jigs in the water, we'll cast the spoons out, and then we'll drift across those pieces of structure as we're jigging and casting the baits, and that's typically how we fish out there. Just nice slow drifts, and then you just keep moving. The reef is huge, it covers a lot of area, so the best way to do it is to just keep moving until you find the fish you're looking for. But casting spoons and jigging is the big draw to go into Stannard Rock, as it's one of the only places you can get on fish like that in the Great Lakes. Here, let me help. Nice job. Beauty.
Wow. Beautiful.
Solid
That's
fish
what we're
there,
looking for.
Big old beast there. He's got a big old head and a skinny tail on him. Typically, as far as jigs go, we're using 1 to 3 ounce jigs. Most of the time we're fishing with the 3 ouncers. When the fish are up shallow between maybe 20 and 60 feet of water, we might downsize the jigs a little bit, but even the 3 ouncers will work up there in the shallows as well. You need the heavier jigs to get you more vertical, because oftentimes we are jigging in 100, 125 or 150 feet of water. So the 3 ouncers are typically my favorite. All colors on certain days may have a better effect than others, but on any given day, a white or a glow jig and a white or a glow twister tail is going to be my favorite setup 9 times out of 10. Chartreuse, pink, a couple of other colors do work from time to time, and they have their days, but most days a white jig and a white tail is all you really need down there. As far as bait on the jigs, we like to use sucker. I've tried a lot of different kinds of fish. Sucker meat I always go back to because it's greasy, it's really oily, so it puts out a lot of scent in the water, and the biggest plus to it is it's very tough. When you're jigging 150 feet down and you're in a lot of small fish, every time you get a nibble, you don't want to have to bring that bait up and check it and make sure you still have meat on there. That sucker is nice and tough. It's very tough. It's very hard for the fish to get off the hook. So that's another reason we like to use that. So typically 3 ounce jigs, white tails, and a big chunk of sucker, and put that thing right on the bottom in the right spot, and that's the ticket out there.
Nice. Holy cow.
That is what you came here for.
Wow, biggest fish I have ever caught. Holy cow. What a monster.
Stannard Rock is known for producing master angler-sized lake trout, and with one in the boat, we were hoping to find a couple more. A good graph is essential for this fishery and can make all the difference when it comes to finding big fish.
Electronics can be very, very important out there. There are some days when those fish are all over the place, but most days you have to be really studying that graph, and you only want to be fishing out there when you are loaded on top of fish. Stannard Rock is the one place that you can be a little bit more picky. You can leave an area with some fish to find an area with a lot more fish. There's also places out there where you may have a lot of fish on the graph, and you may be fishing, catching a lot of smaller fish, one after another after another. It's a place where sometimes you need to pull away from those fish, even though they're biting, and go to another spot and look for some bigger fish, if that's what you're trying to do. Oftentimes, there's a lot, things can change hourly and daily out there. So sometimes just moving over 200 or 300 yards to a different piece of structure, you can be into a whole different group of fish that are feeding over there where a quarter mile away they weren't feeding on the other side. So it's very important to use your electronics, find those big groups of fish, and then fish them. Stannard Rock Reef is made up of hundreds and hundreds of pinnacles, and many people think it's 1 or 2 spots out there. But in all reality, you have about 6 miles of reef, and there's hundreds and hundreds of pinnacles. So sometimes just moving over a couple of pinnacles or a couple of banks, or just moving over to a different spot is all that it takes to get on some active fish. There are active fish on that reef all the time somewhere. Sometimes you just have to use your electronics and you pop around and you just keep fishing until you find what you're looking for.
Finding some bigger fish, eh?
Yep, we finally found a pot of some big hungry boys here. We spent a lot of time today fishing. We had good action most of the day, but we had a lot of smaller fish. So we took our time and we kept moving around to different spots, looking for that big fish, looking for that one bite we were getting. And finally we hit our right spot. We were in about 182 feet of water, and I turned around and my wife had a rod that was bent right over to the handle, and nothing puts a smile on my face than seeing that happen. It turned into about a half an hour fight with Jamie and that fish. She pulled that fish off of the bottom up to about 30 feet. That fish turned around and swam all the way back to the bottom, and it had her screaming and laughing the whole time. I get to see a lot of people catch fish, and it always makes my day, and it makes me smile to see people having fun. But to see my wife at the back of my boat catching a fish like that, it just really makes my day. It makes me realize how lucky we are and what a great place we live in here to be able to experience this kind of stuff with friends and family. It was absolutely great. Getting that fish on the boat and seeing Jamie's face when that thing hit the deck was just absolutely priceless. It's something I'll never forget.
Yeah, he's got some weight.
Wow. Holy cow. Awesome. Wow.
As usual, Stannard Rock did not disappoint, with 2 master angler lake trout making their way to the boat, both caught on a jig. This is a destination that needs to be on every angler's bucket list. It's well worth the drive to Marquette. Special thanks to John and Jamie for a great day on the water and for helping to highlight one of the unbelievable natural resources we have here in Michigan.
Well, as you can see, Stannard Rock is a very special place and some great fishing opportunities. Another corner of our state that's kind of overlooked that also has some great fishing opportunities is Beaver Island.
Within an hour of touching down on Beaver Island, my guide for the trip, Steve Martinez, and I were on his boat for what promised to be an interesting day of fishing. The plan was to target carp, not only on Beaver Island, but on several of the islands surrounding it, focusing on the flats and shallow weed cover, all via the fly rod.
So we're about 9 miles from Beaver Island over on an island called Whiskey Island. It's part of the archipelago, and we're on the lee side of the island right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to just work this shoreline across down to these points over here and catch the windward side of this point over to the north. But we're just going to slowly work this edge and look for some cruising fish and see if we can get a fly in front of 1 or 2 of them. Today we're in northern Lake Michigan on the Beaver Island archipelago, which is about 32 miles from Charlevoix by ferry or by plane. Beautiful flats, shallow water carp on a fly or conventional tackle as well. Because of the high water, we're we're targeting them in the weeds and on the open water flats where they're feeding on gobies and crayfish and small nymphs. What we have here is we have carp that are here year round. So a lot of other places that I've fished carp, during the summer months when it starts to warm up, they'll go deep and they'll never come back up onto the flats or the shallows. Here, because of the makeup of the lake, we have a main lake system behind us that's cold water, and that water temperature is always cooler than it is on the other side of the island, where the reefs in the shallower water warm up and keep those fish deep. So we have opportunities throughout the whole archipelago to find fish in different water temperatures and find the warm water gains that the carp like.
This one is not happy. Tighten up some more. Come on now. I haven't had one spool me yet this year, but there's always the first. There, he's slowing down. Yeah, these things are notorious for running out a lot of line in that first initial take.
We fish the whole Beaver archipelago. We fish, the hog, garden, squaw, whiskey, trout, and high. We do fish around the main isle itself, but very seldom. Mainly because of the outer islands have a little bit better reef systems, transitions from deep water that run right up into shallow water versus them having to cross over a giant flat to get where they want to be. So Squaw Island, for example, is more of a hump where the flats are narrow, but it's surrounded by deep water, so they can get the safety of deep water within 200 yards of shallow water. Whiskey, for example, is got a little bit bigger flat, and those all have in common the deep water scenario around them, so they can come out of the cool water in a short distance. They can be in warm water, that's what they like, and feed and sun themselves and warm up.
Having never fished much for carp myself, I was blown away at just how powerful these fish are, and I began to understand why people come from all over the country to do this. Shortly after we landed our first fish, we were able to find a large pot of carp sitting on the warm water side of a large point. And after a little persuasion, Steve was able to get another bite.
Yeah, finally. Cast at that fish and he just charged right over to it. Grabbed it.
What people don't realize is carp were one of the first fish that were planted in New York in the early 1800s. So they've been around a long time, and at that point they were stocked for food, and now they've become game fish. And we're not doing anything that's new to the sport. Guys have been fly fishing carp for a lot of years, but what we have come up with up here is that it's a flat style, almost it's identical to fishing the saltwater, and they are an aggressive feeder when you can find them cruising and mudding just like they would like a redfish or a bonefish.
Yeah. Took a little bit bigger fly this time. I put on about a 3-inch long crayfish imitation. He grabbed it.
Cool.
Get you turned back, buddy. There you go. There it goes. Very cool. Very cool.
With so much area to cover, catching large numbers of carp out here can be pretty difficult. And having landed 2 fish already, we were off to a great start. And with a large group of carp still in front of us, it didn't take long to hook fish number 3.
It's a good fish. Started ripping that fly through him, and sharp strips, and he come in, grabbed it. Yep. Another good fish. 10 pounds, 12 pounds. It's not the 30 pounder we were looking for, but we'll take it. Doesn't want to give up too easily. A lot of power in those fish, boy. A lot of power. Yeah, another good fish. Another good fish.
Catching 3 fish on the flats via the fly rod is considered a pretty good day, and with a few good hours of fishing left to go, we still had plenty of time to catch a few more. But after watching large numbers of fish swim into the shallow weeds, we decided to switch things up a bit and try a different tactic known as dabbling, something that's relatively new to this area and is probably unlike any kind of fishing you've ever done before.
So last year, we were out with customers and we couldn't figure out exactly how to present to these fish that were in these weeds. So we just decided to try just dropping a fly. You know, out here on the flat, they're unbelievably spooky. I mean, you can't get within 20 feet without them spooking. Once they get inside the weeds, they're a lot more comfortable. They feel comfortable because they're surrounded by grass, and you can just sneak up within inches. Even you can stand next to a fish, a 20-pound carp at your feet, and fish to a fish 10 feet away from you that, and that fish at your feet will never move. That's how comfortable they get in that warm water. That one didn't have any problem either. It's kind of cool though. To get grab it up. It's a cool looking fish. Kind of a little squirt, maybe 6 pounds, but he was an eater.
Nice.
Got cool colors on them. It's gold. They're a cool fish. Get the hook out of him here. I mean, look at that. I mean, he just gobbled that thing right up.
We ended the day having landed 5 carp, 35 miles out in the middle of Lake Michigan. To say this is a unique fishery would be an understatement, and it's one that should be on every angler's bucket list. Special thanks to Steve Martinez for showing me around the Beaver Island area and for helping to highlight one of the great fisheries we have here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
Thanks for joining us this week for Michigan Out of Doors. Make sure you join us in upcoming weeks. We still have a lot of brand new content yet this summer to share with you. We'll be taking a big lake trip with Bob Garner, old friend of the show. Always a lot of laughs on that trip every year. We'll also show you a couple of different adventures you can take your family on around our state this summer. If you'd like to see where we are and where we're headed next, you can always check us out online.
Well, that's right, Jenny. Online is a great way to kind of keep tabs on us. You can do that on our website as well as our social media platforms. And if you're ever on YouTube, you can subscribe to our channel there and get an email every time we post something new. Lots of good stuff coming over the next several weeks. A lot of new stuff as well. So make sure that you are joining us. And if we don't see it in the woods or in the water, hopefully we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by
Do you dream of somewhere bigger than your backyard? You can get there with Greenstone. Whether you want to hunt, fish, hike, or just watch the sunset, we're ready to help you own your place in the great outdoors. To learn more, visit greenstonefcs.com.
DTE believes to lead, we have to do what's right. So we're tripling renewables and cutting carbon emissions in half over the next 10 years. DTE.
Michigan's hunters and anglers are essential partners to the health of the state's wildlife and habitats. The Michigan Wildlife Council is dedicated to ensuring our hunting and fishing heritage and Michigan's natural resources are preserved for future generations.
Closed captioning provided by Marvo Mineral, makers of Lucky Buck, deer management products including minerals to supplement deer diets year-round to improve health and antler growth.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my hands. Lord above, I love this land. I am a Michigan man. From the Keweenaw down to St. Joe, Kalamazoo, east to Monroe, to St. Marie and back again. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my hands. Lord above, I love